And so is Talal. Those two guys have gotten there by doing a lot of three-betting, and they got away with it in their group. Antonio and Trickett tried a lot of three-betting. They didn't get away with it in their group. And so I don't see Sam playing super tight. He's going to play. And
he's raised with the 5-7 offsuit up to 6,000.
Yep, here he comes. And Dan Shak's going to re-raise here.
Yeah, I thought a couple of them were staying.
Shak starting with 390,000 in chips, or that's what he's got now, and Trickett only about 270 to start. These things could become a factor later on. Right now they're just very deep, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very deep, and that's a beautiful thing. I mean, it means the tournament's going to take a while, and it's interesting. I mean, you look at the prize pool, Jesse, and you know, 40,000 is last place, 60, then 70, and to most of these players, in fact, to all of these players that are at the table, there's no difference in what the money's going to do to their lives, 8th, 7th, or 6th. So. And even 5th, so it's arguable that, you know, the first 4 out are getting very similar. To the people at home, there's a big difference between 40,000 and 100,000. But to these players, remember, they bought in for 125,000. That was just the buy-in. So
would your sort of just traditional or classic advice anybody at this table be to kind of go for it a little bit?
Yes, but here's something interesting. Talal is going to continue to raise and play the way he plays. But everybody knows how crazy he's been playing, so, you know, he's going to get a lot of action, I think. Now, all the players know what all the other players are doing. Interestingly enough, it'll be interesting for me to see. I've been told that Reinkemeier will not do a lot of crazy three-betting. Scott Seaver thought that he'd give that up because I thought he'd get himself in trouble trying to three-bet a lot of people, which is how he got there. And so, to me, the interesting dynamic is the three-bet. And
you know, Talal Shakerchi has maintained something like a 35 or 40% VPIP in every heat of this Premier League. If he keeps that up here, with these power players on his left, he'll be in trouble. But so far, it's going well.
He could get himself in a lot of trouble. And, I mean,
this is a relationship, Shakerchi and Reinkemeier, that has deepened and blossomed throughout this Group B of the Premier League. They've probably played, I'd say, 100 hands head-up pots together. And you see, this is the kind of stuff. I mean, it's like they could get a room here, Phil. And what is this check raise going to get re-raised, or?
Yes, it is, because I think, especially with Talal. Of course, here's the other dynamic. Nobody wants to finish last once you've made the final table, but I don't know. I think Talal's supposed to re-raise here with an ace-high flush and 2 overcards, and I think he will re-raise here, but a call is not horrible.
Cool. And obviously,
and I really believe if this pot came up 2 hours from now, Talal's going to just re-raise him right here.
He may also have plans for the turn if he misses. Are there certain good cards to raise the turn with? Well, okay. He's now hit the nuts. I mean,
he has the nuts. Now it's a matter of how much can he extract, and, you know, will Reinkemeier fire? See, now Reinkemeier, interestingly enough here, he may come out firing representing a straight or a flush. Little does he know that Shakerchi actually has the flush. And not just the flush, but the nut flush, so.
Right, I mean, traditionally sort of an under-the-gun raiser would be representing sort of the big pair type of hand, and Reinkemeier representing the draws more, so that's the dynamic here, I guess. And for Shakerchi, call is always best here to try and let Reinkemeier hang himself, or should he just start getting money in?
Considering the history, the call's much better, because he knows, he's read all the hand updates, he's read all the hand histories, he's watched all the television stuff, and I don't think that Shakerchi sleeps a lot anyway. I mean, he's a big-time businessman, right? Runs his own hedge fund, so I believe that he should know that there's a good chance that his opponent does have air. But I think he's opted to take a different line. He's going to try to get all the money with the raise.
5 raises to 82,000.
Obviously, if he is putting this sort of raise in, he kind of feels like Reinkemeier could actually have a strong hand here, 2 pair, or maybe even made a straight. Or?
Yeah, I don't blame him for a raise. I mean, there's something to be said for raising when you have the nuts, the best possible hand, and give your opponent a chance to go crazy and get a re-raise. And whether he has it or not, of course, you're hoping, he's praying that his opponent, Reinkemeier, has a king-high flush and just has to go broke.
Now, I wonder if in Reinkemeyer's mind he could say to himself, listen, Talal Shakerchi would make this raise with the ace of hearts and any other card. You know, could be an offsuit king, could be another ace, could be a queen. Is that the kind of line he might be thinking on?
It's interesting. I mean, one thing's for sure. Reinkemeier has not slowed down in the heats that I've commentated and watched, and he's needed to slow down a little bit, and he hasn't. So the sheer aggression works really well to a point. And there's a point where you have to recognize, wow, everybody knows I'm running it over. They've seen the updates, and so at some point you really have to slow down. And he really hasn't slowed down. He's gotten himself in trouble a few times when I didn't think he had to. On the other hand, he's used 3-betting so well that he's picked up a lot of chips doing it as well. But he hasn't always had the perfect read. Like, he's made a lot of 3-bets, he's had a lot of great reads, but there's been a bunch of times where if he had a better read, he wouldn't have re-raised. So I'm not quite giving Reinkemeier white magic status. I'm giving him 3-better status, and a really, really tough player, mind you.
He's asking how much Talal has back here, Phil. And what he's going to find out is that Talal has just about 170,000 back, which is almost exactly what's in the pot. So it's Tobias. Yep.
Did you see how Talal? Sorry to interrupt you. Did you see how he pushed forward the red chips there as he was counting?
Yeah.
That's a sign. Usually when people do that, they're not going to call. So he's trying a reverse tell. So usually when people put their chips in front, it means they're not going to call. Now, Reinkemeier may fall for this reverse tell.
It's only the third hand. Could Reinkemeier just blow his cool? And I mean, is there any kind of logic? Okay. Is there any kind of logic for making the all-in move there? Would it work in some cases?
It could work in some cases, but you know, Reinkemeier, you know, I'd like to. He did at least look at Talal a little bit, but I'd like to see him focus a little bit more on the opponent's face in that spot, because one thing that really good or great poker players can see is when their opponent has the best possible hand, and that's just like that's just a kind of a fact, a known fact that all the great players will say is we know when our opponent has the best possible hand. That's an easiest tell to pick up.
Tobias Reinkemeier ran away with this league in the heat stages, starting this final table with 460,000 in chips. He's back into the pack now, though.
It's not really happening.
So how many real magicians do you
Well, like a white magic person, that's a real magician. That's somebody that summons the forces of the universe and has supernatural power.
So
you're just tricky. You do things with your hands.
Raises to 4,000.
Story of my life.
Big difference between magic and white magic, Jennifer.
Once people figure out what you do, then you're not a magician at all. You're just somebody that's trying to do tricks. Remember when you met Phil and he was trying to see what you were doing, and you were trying to move away from him because he was disturbing you?
I remember.
Yeah, because you knew once he figured out your tricks, he wouldn't be impressed by you anymore.
I would say Shakerchi's chances of calling this flop are somewhere between 100 and 500%. Sure enough.
I agree.
No, he's like a Magic Castle type magician. He's not like Merlin from King Arthur's court.
Where are they located, just so I know to stay?
That's one trick they couldn't pull off. Living forever.
Boy, Phil, even when you're not at the table, you dictate the table dynamics, it seems like.
Well, thank you, Jennifer Tilly. I really appreciate that. She started on Antonio earlier. They're really great friends. In fact, you know, Phil Luck's here with us in the booth, and I know that he's very connected to both Jennifer Tilly and Antonio, and very interesting that she started on him already. But thank you for the compliment, Jennifer. The white magic. She said white magicians are real magicians, and Antonio just does tricks.
So to me, this is an interesting dynamic. Sam Trickett confessed to me that he doesn't really know Talal that well. He's been hearing about his game. He obviously knows of Talal.
Yes.
You know what's crazy? Glamorous movie star Phil Law.
But they're checking back the flop and then just folding Talal on the turn. Maybe Sam Trickett wants to have a little more of a encounter with Talal Shakerchi before he decides to make any edgy plays.
I've never met anybody like Phil before, ever.
Correct, because no one like Phil exists on the planet.
Thank God.
Or will ever. Or will ever. He really is special. He is something else.
Jungleman's licking
Antonio
his
just said it well here. He said glamorous movie star and Phil Lock. I don't get it. but Phil Lock just smiles by now. He's used to Antonio exactly needling him like that. So.
C7 fold. C8 fold.
More tense too, like.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Duhamel in the big blind.
After I busted, it was like 5 hours before.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought might happen. I saw Jungleman first shift his strategy in heat number 4. He took a lot of criticism from a lot of people who he respects. He might not think that we're the player that he is, but at least he knows that we know something about strategy, Jungleman, and so I think he finally has decided to play a different strategy. He just folded ace-8 offsuit in late position. This is a guy that's been defending with 9-5 offsuit all Premier League. I think he's going to go for a different direction, and I think that would be very smart for him to do that. He's basically second in chips right now. Oh, no, I think I have that wrong.
No, I didn't want the 20,000
He's
chips.
probably fourth in chips.
I'm just
Yeah.
I think he's fourth in chips.
He's not that far off the chip lead with his 340 to 420. So I think he's going to try a little different strategy, and it'll be interesting to see because he's not used to playing tight.
You mentioned the Jungleman factor several
times. He got a
times.
penalty, and he said sorry. And then like 2 hands
Let me tell you about
later,
Jungleman.
he
is the best online heads-up multi-tabling player in the planet. And if you want to say he's not the best, you want to say somebody else is. He's in the discussion.
Yeah,
Jungleman is. So what he does is he plays millions of heads-up hands, and having that like uber intelligence and that that amazingness to be able to move chips, you know, back and forth, just screen, decision. That's just very difficult, and so oftentimes champions of his nature, in the past we've seen a lot of these heads-up champions come into the real world and they play way too fast and they lose all their money. We've seen it over and over again, and it makes sense because how can you, as Phil Lock said, how can you play 2 million hands just super fast and then expect to come in here and play slow? But I'm impressed that Jungleman is I think attempting to change the dynamics of his play, which is correct for 8-handed, especially with no antes.
Yeah, another thing about Jungleman, I mean, he has been a focal point in a sense. There have been several hands involving him that have been some of the most dramatic hands played in the Premier League, some of the most interesting. And a lot of people thought one of the reasons that he misplayed some of those hands had to do with the format. That's off now, right? I mean, actually, it is just good poker. That should suit him better.
That's right. Now him playing 9-5 there's a lot more merit to it. If that's what he wants to defend with in the big blind, that's okay. So yes, I agree with that.
You were particularly a player who knocked heads with the Jungleman. The other player, Sam Trickett, I think, had quite a few run-ins with him.
To be fair, I let Jungleman, I didn't play a pot. I mean, I've folded 8s against him, 9s against him, all these hands. It wasn't until about our 400th hand that I finally got him trapped and drawing pretty much dead on the flop, and he decided he was going to try to outplay me. See, there's a different Tobias folding the 5-3 of cups. What a great spot for Duhamel to actually have a hand against these 2 blinds. I mean, this is very unlucky for Antonio.
It is. And Antonio doesn't need an ace-10 to 3-bet here. He can 3-bet with any 2 cards he wants in this spot.
So Antonio's gone ahead. Remember, the blinds are only 1 and 2. But Duhamel may re-raise it, and then Antonio, I think it's going to come down to his reading ability, but it's a pretty unlucky hand matchup. Let's see if Antonio's white magic can save him.
He's very good looking.
Duhamel starting this final table with just over 200 big blinds, while Antonio just about half that.
I like the fact that Duhamel's taking his time here, because it seems like he's weak when he's taking this kind of time.
I mean, as strong as Jack's is, Phil, is it 100 big blinds strong? Can you get 100 big blinds in before the flop with this hand, or can you against
Duhamel
Antonio?
can against Antonio because he knows that Antonio has been 3-betting him light all the time. There's a dynamic between these two that's existed the whole Premier League, and it started in the first heat when Duhamel ended up raising with King 3. Antonio 3-bet it with Jack 9, and Duhamel 4-bet it with King 3, and then showed the hand. And so, because we were forced to show hands at that point. So, because that dynamic exists, Duhamel will call Antonio if Antonio does anything crazy here.
Oh, we've got a 2-bet. That was the open. Antonio with the 3-bet. Now Duhamel with the 4-bet. And there's still plenty of room for number 5. When you say plenty of room, can Antonio make a 5-bet that doesn't commit him? That's an interesting question. He could make it about 60 if he wanted to.
Antonio has arguably the best results on the planet in the last 2 years in poker, you know, and one reason why is his reading ability, and he's had a tough time reading Duhamel. And he said it over and over, I can't beat you, kid, I can't beat you, kid, you take all my chips, you take all my chips, and Duhamel's done exactly that. And so, Antonio, I don't know, I think he's supposed to get away. This is the final. They've already put in, blinds are only 1 in 2,000. Duhamel's already 4-betted for 15 big blinds. I think the proper play would be for Antonio just to fold here. Good fold, Antonio.
It is. Fold. That is a disciplined fold. He did no fun, but it had to be done. Now,
if Antonio would have lost a lot more chips there, I would have said that I understood a little bit why, because of the dynamic. But this is different. This is the finals, and Antonio, I think, woke up to that fact, and he made a good laydown. It wasn't a great laydown. It was a very good laydown.
A little bit of movement. Reinkemeyer's come down to earth. Just for the rest of the starting chips, guys.
Every single heat.
Yeah, that's a misprint. Actually, the chips have changed significantly since then.
As well. Right?
Let me ask you about Jonathan Duhamel, Phil. There's sort of been this trend in the poker world, maybe the last 10 years, where main event champions are not automatically given credit as great players. But for me, Duhamel, I don't want to say he's proved himself because he's done a lot since he's won the World Series, but I feel like he's impressed quite a few people here this week. Do you agree?
He really has. He's been very steady. You know what I mean? Like, he's come in here. He's not afraid to play great. He's been very, very, very steady. This is a very tricky situation where Jungleman raised with Queen 10 of diamonds. And Reinkemeier smooth called with Ace King, hoping somebody else behind came after it, because he knows the reputation the Jungleman has of playing too many hands. So Reinkemeyer's trying to use Jungleman's loose image to his advantage and get someone to re-raise behind. And actually, Shakerchi had a hand with King Queen that he could have potentially re-raised with. He decided not to, and I suspect this hand might be played just a little bit differently later on in the match today, like 2 or 3 hours from now.
Great point. It's clever stuff from Reinkemeier if this is the strategy he chooses to employ. All the loose 3-betters are sitting directly behind him.
Right.
And a great spot for Reinkemeier here with top pair, top kicker.
And he and Shakerchi have already battled. So because of that, remember, they've already played one pot where Reinkemeier, you know, check raised on a belly buster and then bet into the nut flush when he was drawing dead. And they're used to putting chips in against each other. So Talal may well raise here. Let's just see. I think he's probably going to call. He has too many people behind him where he might have to worry about a set of 3s or set of 9s or something.
Yeah, that was just today. I mean, they have played a hand in one of the heats. I think it may have been the last heat, where Shakerchi, he check raised Tobias on, I believe it was an ace-10 deuce board with the 3-4, and hit the straight on the turn. The 5 came, and then Tobias ended up calling him down with king high for loads of chips.
Wow. Called him down with king high?
Yeah, he had king queen and called a full barrel on the turn in river.
Wow.
And Talal kind of said, I knew he was going to call me down with king high because he knew I had air a lot there.
So because of this dynamic between the two of them, this pot could end up being much bigger than it would be, you know, if they just sat down for the first time and didn't have the histories.
By the way, Jungleman could have closed the action for the belly buster on the flop and didn't. He would have.
Yeah, he had the Queen 10 of diamonds. He could have called 20 there. Yeah. Jungleman's been hitting a lot of those hands, to be honest. 3 is the best card in the deck for Reinkemeier. Anything below a 9 is great. Actually, a 9's pretty good for him, too. It's hard to think that Talal has a 9. It is a potentially dangerous card, but...
I mean, the only hands he can get to call him that...
Any king.
Okay. Oh, right. Talal could actually be very wide with the kings, right? He could almost have any king, the way we know what we know about Shakerchi.
Four checks.
He could have anything king 4 suited.
Wow, what a great check Talal made.
Four shows ace and king.
What a great check.
So I'm playing a cash game, and the blinds are like over there somewhere.
And a great check. I mean, he thought he could potentially be getting check raised, or there wasn't much he could get paid off by.
I misspoke there because a 9 is a likely card for Talal have, so that was not a very good card for him on the river. And so at that point, he just Reinkemeier just decided, all right, we're at the finals now. I've already lost a couple pots. I'm just going to shut down the action.
And like it was a hand in middle position that I never would have played. So,
what is this story from?
Just a cash game, and it was a significant amount of money. So I don't like hope for the 4-4 with the. I'm not saying what I had, but like.
Been a little bit of movement on the leaderboard since we started. Reinkemeier lost a few, has now gained them back. But Esfandiari.
To be fair, I feel like Reinkemeier won the minimum on that hand against Talal, both through Talal's good play and Reinkemeier, I think, might have been able to find a few more chips there. He could have bet a little bit more on 4th Street, and he should have value bet the river, in my opinion, because he can still get away if Talal makes a huge raise. If Talal has a 9, Jesse, what's going to happen is Reinkmeier's going to check and then call.
Right.
So he might as well just bet 100,000, and if Talal raises, he can fold. That way he's getting extra value for the 100,000 that he would have called. This way he's at least bet it.
Trickett's found a nice hand on the button.
You sucker. You never fold.
You're going to force all call.
Yeah, make it 5, you fold.
I'll fold 4.
I think these two are going to play some pots together. Trickett on the button when Jungleman's in the big blind. And they both like those positions.
9.5, 4.5.
Yep. In fact, this is one spot where Trickett would have been happy to get everything in before the flop. You know, Ace Queen with 200 and whatever 60,000 he started with, and Jungleman in the big blind. So
why Trickett checked the flop back, I don't know, but it's come a perfect turn card. He's got the jungle right.
Well, he checked because that's right in Jungleman's range. We've seen him. I was joking about the 9-5, but I mean he was playing 9 anything, 8 anything. Wow, what a great card.
I mean, great for Trickett. For Jungleman,
if Trickett can find a small bet here, Jungleman might raise him. Wow, smart bet.
Isn't it very hard for Jungleman not to raise?
Well, the Jungleman made this raise all day long in the Premier League a bunch of times, and he did it with air and he did it with hands. Wow.
Raises to 23,000.
Oh, that's so sweet for Sam. Just called. Wow.
He just called. And is the reason he just called it something about how polarized Jungleman could be? He could have been bluffing there, where he had a huge hand.
I think his just call was fine. I think Sam's there's probably a part of him that wishes he re-raised. But I think that, you know, listen, there's still 8 players left. You have a lot of time to go. What's he going to do? Put in 100,000 and fold for the next 130? So it's okay because it's early.
The 10 went to work.
I don't know what Sam just said.
He said if I bet 10,000, you want to raise me. And Jungleman said, yeah.
That's how well they know each other's game, because I have no idea what that means.
Well, I called it before he bet. I said if he bets small enough, he's going to get raised. But if he bets big, he's just going to get called.
On the river now. It's complicated. Adds a new dynamic.
The pots they have played have featured some fun rivers. One of them, Jungleman check raised Sam with a big bluff. One of them, he check raised him with the nuts when Sam had about the 4th nuts. And He's probably the only guy, Phil, in this field who has a real reputation throughout the heat stages for being able to make the river bluff raise. I mean, everyone can do it, obviously, but he's done it with regularity.
Jungle Man, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, I agree with you. With regularity.
I mean, they say it's one of the rarest moves in Nolan and Hold'em. Do you agree with that? The thing you see the least, the river bluff raise?
Yes, yes. I think that's probably one of the least used moves. Hey, it's interesting. I see that Dan Shak has the Ivy poker thing on. Has he worn it in the other heat?
Yeah, he's been wearing it every day.
Every heat, okay.
Can't play poker. So I'm like, how did that mic fall out of my dress? Can't play poker.
I think he's mentioned it's. He's doing a favor for a friend, is what he said.
Yeah. And did you see Talal just come raising in with 8-5 of hearts with the killer's row behind him?
He doesn't do scared.
And won the pot uncontested.
Actually, I missed that. That's great.
Yeah, it was the last hand. He just came in raising with 8-5 of hearts. I mean, it's...
This is pretty good timing.
Yeah.
Seat 3 folds.
Reinkemeier and Jungleman, this is their first meeting. The Jungle from Group A, Reinkemeier from Group B, and I know they played a little bit in the cash game in Prague last year, but that would be it.
Right, and Reinkemeier with the 10-jack of diamonds, that's a hand he doesn't want to raise with because he doesn't want to get re-raised. He wants to just take a flop. And from his point of view, he just hit the nuts because it's against Jungleman, and Jungleman raises every button. So he's got to feel really good about his jack. Reinkemeier thinks he has the best hand. He's trying to decide, how do I extract the most?
I mean, most players here, Phil, would just sort of take a passive check call line. Reinkemeier has been one of those guys that doesn't mind check raising the flop. He's chosen not here.
Yeah, check call's safe. I mean, you know.
Turn, Queen of Spades.
Not the best card for Jungleman because now it might slow down Reinkemeier.
Seat 4 checks.
But Reinkmeier's calling 20,000 or whatever Jungleman bets.
It looks like a reasonable bluffing card for Jungleman if he's been called once, right?
Yes.
Reinkmeier's been put under pressure a couple times already. Had 2 run-ins with Talal, now with the Jungleman. He's being forced to get in action early.
Yeah, it's really hard to fold that. You know, it's more like a hero fold in this format. He doesn't really want a 10.
That could be an action killer.
No, I don't think so. I think Jungleman's going to pursue, and I think he's going to bet 30,000.
I think one of the things that the hallmarks of Premier League poker is that these guys are good, and doesn't matter how thin a value bet is, they're taking it. Boy, he's going quite big here.
He bets 50,000.
I mean, that's quite big, Phil.
Yeah, and you know, I don't envy Reinkemeier right now because it is Jungleman, and the only thing that could save him is you know, the fact that Jungleman has bet all 4 straights, raised before the flop, bet the flop, bet the turn, and bet the river, which adds up to a 4-barrel bluff if he's bluffing. So I'm going to say if someone bets at you 4 times, they're going to have it 90% of the time in today's poker. Unlike in 2007, where
that was ultra aggressive. Seems like a funny bet with the aces in that, you know, Reinkemeier might be thinking, well, he's either hit a flush or a set or he's got nothing. But Jungleman is getting this value out of just 1 pair. It is the best 1 pair, but still.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Jungleman's played the hand pretty close to a standard way to play it, and he got called. And Reinkemeier had a chance to show me something there and make a great read and lay it down, and he didn't do it. I don't know. We'll have to see. I've been trying to figure out if Reinkemeier has really great reading abilities or not, and I haven't seen that because he's done well on the high rollers. And I know, don't misunderstand me, I understand he's a top-notch player, but I'm trying to see what his reading abilities look like. And he's made a lot of bad decisions in the last couple of heats that I've commentated when he's re-raced people when they were really strong. So he has that nice 3-betting ability, which is going to win you a lot of high rollers, but the thing that takes you to a step above that is understanding, you know, is using your reading abilities.
He's taken a hit. Reinkemeier started with about 460,000. He's down under 400 right now.
Well, he lost 2 big pots against the nut flush and aces.
C1 folds, C2 folds.
Actually, this game has started out a little more conservative than I thought. The only players really taken it to task pre-flop so far have been Talal and Trickett.
C3 raises to 6,000.
So it's Jennifer reached for some green chips, which is a little bit of sign of strength, you know.
C5 folds.
And maybe if she hadn't done that, maybe she hadn't reached for the green chips, Talal would have raised her here.
She's gone for a slightly larger raise size. Well, it's worked out well.
King of diamonds.
I don't mind the fact she opened for 6, but can she find a check here?
C3 bet 6,000.
You feel like if she finds a check, she might get Talal to start betting at it.
No, I think probably actually the bet is probably her best play based on their dynamic. And wow, what an ace for her! Oh my God! Phil Luck just jumped out of his seat in excitement next to us. You have to fire again, Jennifer. 10,000 or something. Now she checks.
I mean, if he had something, she's trying to make it look like she's got a king. Is that the idea? But isn't the fact that if Talal had something on the flop, he still got something on the turn?
Maybe even more. I mean, the straight hit, the flush hit, it all hit.
Yeah.
And so.
C5 bets 15,000.
Who are we to say she's going to get max here? If she raises, will he call? She's going to have a decision anyway.
Oh, beautiful raise. She raised 30,000. Well played, Jennifer. Well played. He might just have to pay off 30 more. He's asking, what the heck did she check on the turn? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, does it? Especially on a paired board. Would she check back 3 queens? No, she'd be scared he would be drawing to a flush. Would she check back a flush? No, she'd be scared he was drawing to a house. Is that right?
That's as usual, Jesse. You're showing your poker skills in the booth.
He hates it.
But he
doesn't make sense, he says. Oh, that
Okay.
makes sense.
I'll tell you what, Jennifer knows what she's doing, you know. I mean, she bet the flop, which I do actually like. I would have bet the turn. I reversed my position that her bet on the flop was a bad bet. She has to bet the flop. I would have probably bet the turn as well, but she may have got the maximum dollars the way she played it. That's the fact.
Jennifer Tilley came into this final table by virtue of the playoffs. She defeated Tony G, and she had the shortest stack because only 19 points in the league, but she's already 50% addition to that.
She has a lot of confidence right now. She beat Tony G heads up, and looked like pretty easily she beat him heads up, and so she must be feeling good.
C7 folds.
So Trickett's not quite ready to play the 5-7 of diamonds yet.
Well, he played it already from the offsuit. Maybe this is a whose big blind is it kind of decision.
Yeah, it's too early.
Jen's having a bit of a
C3 raises to
hard
6,000.
rush early at this table.
C4 folds.
Talal, you just could see he's always looking for an excuse to put chips in the pot. Okay.
Wow, he folds the A7. Wow. We didn't see him do much of that, did we?
Not at all.
So all the dynamics, you can throw them out the window at this point. Jungle Man is actually playing tight. Who saw that coming? I thought he might, only because he shifted in the fourth heat, but I didn't necessarily see it coming, and we'll see how long that lasts. You know, when someone's used to playing loose, it's very difficult for them to play tight. They get frustrated. They say, wow, I would have hit that hand, I would have hit this hand, and then all of a sudden they lose it.
Shakerchi came into this Premier League on the back of a lot of confidence, winning a big high roller event in London last week, and you know, he's the guy in the field that everyone says, oh, he's got the least credentials or this sort of thing, even though he has been playing in this company for about 2 years now. And so having that win under his belt, I think, has really encouraged him to sort of bring his game to the table.
I'm surprised that Trickett hasn't played with him because they both play high rollers.
C1 raises to 5,000.
Yeah, he's just not that familiar with him. I think maybe they, even though Talal plays a lot of high rollers, he doesn't make the trip over to Asia, you know, which is where guys like Dan Shak, they're always in Australia and Macau, and I think Talal, you know, is more stays around Europe. He's got so many things going on here.
And there's Talal calling the race with the 5 deuce of spades, which I thought was horrible in the points race, but is a little bit better now because also against Dan Shak, he feels like if he hits it, Dan's going to pay him off. On the other hand, it's going to be pretty hard to bluff him. But here goes Talal.
5 at 7,000.
One of the great things I love about Dan Shak is that he tries to convince people he's just a rock, and it's true. His starting hands are very selective, but he's got moves. Maybe not right now, though.
They're just warming up right now, you know. It's they really need some annies in there to let the action flow or something. And I guess annies are going to hit on hand 63, Jesse?
That's correct. Phil, when you sit down at a poker table with people you know, with guys you've played with before, is there sort of this idea, I know what to expect from them, but I still want to see what I can expect from them today, in the sense that, you know, moods change and people change.
Yeah, Jesse, you're right on with that one, too. You might know the way a guy has played. You might know it well, maybe from commentary or from whatever. But you just don't know how he's going to play that day. And so you have to be ready for them to play their usual game. You also have to be ready for them to surprise you. And here's Shungelman with his normal hand. Aces.
Aces twice in 15 hands.
Is that what your wingmen do, Antonio?
And Reinkemeier with the king 10. He's going to get involved.
He had to take all the doggy girls and keep them occupied. Had your way with the cute ones.
Wow. No, but Phil and I did okay together.
I'm sure.
We did okay together.
Yeah.
I guess the first dynamics for the 3-bet sort of involve the fact that it's just the first level, so these guys are happy to look at flops.
We were good.
Look at this. Wow.
Everybody in.
Antonio's going to call, too.
7 calls.
Well, this is a bad scenario to have 2 aces and have...
I mean, in some ways...
2 aces and you have 5, 6 players call?
Right, how done can you be with a hand before the flop when you have 2 aces? This is about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, 5 players called him.
Oh, right.
7 of clubs, queen of
So,
spades.
I mean, this is just one where he has a he might just make a really big bet here just to kind of like find out where he's at.
15,000.
Okay.
By some miracle, he's actually ahead after the flop.
Well, it's not that unusual that he'd be ahead after the flop.
Thank you.
5 calls.
Duhamel's flop top pair. And it's against Jungle Man. He's never folding. I mean, when Jungle Man goes on a rush, his reputation is he's such a loose goose. He's just going to get action, you know?
Sure, but he did bet into 5 people there, right? You have to take that into account, or...
10 is not that tricky a card for him. He might just bet 40 here.
Two bets, 45,000.
45,000. And Duhamel's not going to fold here, I don't think.
I mean, how locked in is Duhamel just to call it? Feels like
it's Jungle Man,
right.
you know, and unless Duhamel has picked up, like, if he folded here, it would be, I just have to say it was a great fold. I'm going to have to use the term great fold for this one.
So you feel like the dynamics of the last couple of heats between Jungleman and everyone in this Premier League, they dictate that Duhamel has to pay him off, and Duhamel is just trying to figure out if there's something else at play.
Well, Duhamel's thinking, you know, can I fold this hand? You know, and then also another line that he's thinking is, you know, should I raise? And, you know, that is impressive. That's an impressive fold.
You called it a great fold, Phil.
I'm going to say it's a great fold. Yeah, I really am, because considering it's against Jungleman, the only way you can fold top pair there against Jungleman is if you have a great read. He had a great read. It was a great fold. 99.9% of the world is going to call the 45,000 there. And probably every player in the Premier League is going to call, unless, you know, one of these guys, unless it's like a Trickett with a great read or Antonio with a great read.
Like, if I asked your parents, how would they rate you as a kid? Were you well behaved? Did you get in trouble?
I know the story. Tell them the story how you got your nickname.
Oh. Well, it's all both, actually. I got my nickname because when I first started playing poker, I was really bad at poker, actually. And I was like, a little bit awkward. I was a lot more awkward than I was now. And so,
how awkward are you right now, 1 to 100? You feel in general?
I don't know.
And how awkward were you back then?
I was just like, I was in outer space.
And now you've come closer to Earth, but you're still
yeah,
kind of
still
behind the
I'm
moon, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm like, I don't know, I'm a little bit